6 Republicans just revolted against Donald Trump, handing a major blow to him in his effort to continue to abuse his tariff power. And somehow that wasn't even the worst news that Donald Trump got at the hands of his own party. Because Mike Johnson's majority right now, it is barely functioning. He is speaker in title alone. He cannot pass anything. He cannot defend Donald Trump. And it just got even worse with some resignation news that both Donald Trump and Mike Johnson were greatly fearing. And it comes as Donald Trump has never been more unpopular. And on 2 issues specifically, the economy, which is why Republicans just revolted over tariffs, and ICE, which is why we are getting this breakdown from Rachel Maddow before this big resignation report.
If you're looking for ways to punch your moral dance card at the moment, if you're, say, Paul Weiss, with your radioactive Epstein Files chairman stuffed into the back office where you hope no one notices him, where your firm is literally described now as the face of capitulation, right? When you're trying to avoid a picture of your firm appearing in the history books in the chapters on the shameful cowardice of the once vaunted and powerful American legal profession in the face of the tiniest nudge from a tin pot dictator. If you are Paul Weiss or you're another firm that's in that boat, you have the opportunity to have a very big and very important 2026. Because the very contingent, as yet undecided fight over whether or not America is going to let Donald Trump build a huge new constellation of black site prison camps in this country, that is a fight that needs legal firepower, that needs pro bono lawyers donating their time. There's representing people who are already in the existing camps. A record number of people being held right now in what we know are atrocious conditions. There's also representing people with habeas corpus petitions, right? Non-lawyers hearing that phrase don't know what I'm talking about, but lawyers instantly know what that is, right? The administration defying court orders was supposed to be such a bright red line for the vaunted American legal profession. Well, where is the administration defying court orders every day? Courts all over the country, from Minneapolis to Massachusetts, say that federal court orders are being violated every day, over and over and over again, specifically when it comes to the Trump administration arresting people and locking them up indefinitely without any chance to go to court to be heard, which, of course, is the basis of the writ of habeas corpus. They're not supposed to be able to lock you up in prison without putting your case before a court. In Massachusetts, one federal judge last week went so far as to order the Trump administration to advise every single person they arrested and locked up, to advise them in writing and in multiple languages, that every single person the Trump administration is locking up has the right to petition a federal court to review their case and potentially set them free. The judge ordered that the Trump administration needs to give every single person they lock up written notice of their right to a habeas corpus petition in a federal court. And then she ordered that within 3 hours of anybody being given that notice, they need to be given access to a telephone, quote, to call an attorney. Whereupon perhaps they could call Paul Weiss. Perhaps big law, which has a lot to make up for now, perhaps big law could dig down deep and try to find its soul somewhere amid the tidal wave of habeas corpus petitions that ought to be filed by all these thousands of men, women, and children Trump is arresting all over the country and locking up literally without due process, without any access to the courts. And why is he doing that? Well, he's doing it in part to create an artificial need for tons more space in Trump prison camps, which they are trying to build in huge numbers right now.
Everywhere you look, Donald Trump is losing because he is incredibly unpopular. And everyone recognizes that, especially the cynical operators within the Republican Party. It is why we are seeing more retirements and resignations from Congress than we ever have before. The political environment is too toxic for some, and the opportunity to win their seat is too small for others. It's why many Republicans are moving on. And one who already announced his retirement, that this would be his last term in Congress, is giving Donald Trump some news, or some news is being reported about him that is very much scaring the president and his stooge Mike Johnson. With House GOP majority teetering on the brink, Florida Congressman plans to retire early. Report. Representative Neil Dunn, a Republican from Florida, is planning to announce an early retirement next week, according to Florida politics publisher Peter Schorich, an exit that would drag the House majority out the door with him. Dunn, 72, announced last month that he decided, after much prayerful consideration and discussion with his family, to not seek re-election. Currently, Republicans have the majority in the House by a very narrow margin, 218 to 214, and 3 seats vacant, meaning anytime Speaker Mike Johnson is facing a party line vote, he can only afford to lose a single Republican member's support. Tied votes fail, and there is no tiebreaker for the House, like the role that Vice President J.D. Vance serves in the Senate. In other words, Dunn making an early exit would have repercussions beyond just the representation of his district in the Florida Panhandle, making it all but impossible for Johnson to move any bills forward unless he can win over at least one Democrat while preserving the unanimous support of his caucus. Peter Schorich, a Florida politics veteran, wrote, Florida Paul trying to track down rumor that Republican Neil Dunn is resigning imminently rather than at the end of his term, which he previously announced. Dunn stepping down now would imperil the House majority, and this is a developing story. So the report as it stands right now is that Neil Dunn is weighing whether he is going to be resigning next week, that next week he might be calling it quits because this is just too much to bear. And that actually makes a lot of sense in the context of what we just saw play out with Donald Trump and his tariff threats, taking to Truth Social and saying that the 6 Republicans who voted to strip him of his tariff power, to move forward in stripping him of his tariff power, that they should face major consequences come election day, not just in primaries, but beyond. And it has been well documented that Republicans feel a real fear of physical harm from Donald Trump supporters when they vote against him, when they break with him, and when Donald Trump tweets about them. It is something that Indiana Republicans had to deal with, but they made the smart move of working together. They had a bigger coalition that it made difficult for Donald Trump to go after them all. It's something that Republicans should probably learn. Strength in numbers. He can't tweet about everybody. And so if you're a Republican who maybe doesn't want to go along with some of the extreme elements that we are going to see coming forward, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump is forcing Mike Johnson to attack polling locations, to declare, emergency powers for him, to hand over his Article 1 powers. Anything could happen in the next couple of months, which is why it's more important than ever that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and other Democrats start to come up with plans to make sure that there's not an ICE agent at every ballot box, that Donald Trump isn't deciding that he wants to attack or try to stop mail-in voting. I don't know. There is so much that could happen. And if you're a Republican that just wants to be done, resigning would not give Democrats the gavel, but it would effectively end Mike Johnson's time as Speaker. Nothing would happen in the House of Representatives. So if you didn't want to catch the fury for being the person to stand in the way of Trump, you could just be like, I'm done. I'm done. And that's what's being reported right now. That Neil Dunn is considering resigning. That next week he could say, I'm out of here. It's about to warm up at the Panhandle. Right, we're gonna spend some time in Destin. I don't know where his district is, but it's a good beach in the Panhandle. I am a Floridian, it's okay. And maybe he's done. Maybe he's finished. Maybe he's saying adios. I'm done. I watched the Bad Bunny halftime show and now I just want to shake it. Okay, I could understand that feeling. I'm needing a vacation myself. But that is what Donald Trump is currently staring down. Republicans who either are or want to quit on him. And if we don't get this resignation next week, I'll be a little disappointed. But the fact that we're even talking about it is a tremendous blow to Donald Trump and shows how politically impotent he is. And it is only getting worse as Donald Trump loses other battles in the House of Representatives, this time at the hands of House Democrats like Jason Crow, who just beat Donald Trump in court and was bragging about it and driving him a little crazy.
What's your takeaway about what that said when you got the word that the court looked at the facts and went, get out of here?
Well, the system in this case held. The system worked.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of a grand jury or any jury, right? The founders actually designed it for exactly this purpose in mind. That you could have a rogue runaway presidency that's going to weaponize the government against political opponents, as we have in this case. But a jury of the peers are going to say, no, not on our watch. We're not going to do it. That's the first important part here. The second is, I think folks absolutely know what's really going on here. This is not about us or Mark Kelly or Alyssa Slotkin, and it actually isn't even about the video. What the administration and Donald Trump in particular is trying to do is send a message to Americans that if you dare dissent, you dare speak up and step out of line, you will be crushed.
Yep.
So you all better fall in the line. But we are not going to be threatened. We're not going to be intimidated. And he picked the wrong people because we're not backing down.
There you go.
When you say he picked the wrong people in part in his targets. He also picked the wrong people writ large. The New York Times refers to what happened potentially being read as a citizens' revolt, that you have American citizens who are actually the final line and the final check on this so-called justice system here in this country. You're pushing it even further. You have a letter from your attorney that is demanding that Jeanine Pirro never take legal action against you, saying the indictment was a misuse of power. The reports that your office tried and failed to secure an indictment against Congressman Crow represents a breathtaking and unprecedented level of prosecutorial overreach and misuse of power. Accordingly, this letter is a demand that you take no further action against Congressman Crow and puts you and those pursuing any further charges on notice of the legal ramifications if you do so. Have you heard back from her office?
No, we haven't. And here's why we sent that letter. It's really important right now that we start imposing costs on people who are abusing the system, who are turning their back on the Constitution, who are violating the law. They just can't be doing this with impunity. They have to know that we're making lists.
The man keeps losing and losing and losing. He's losing Republicans, he's losing tariff power, he's losing support for his immigration agenda, which becomes more unpopular every single day, and Democrats need to go on offense, calling it out when they win, make Trump look weak, and that is exactly what Mark Kelly did. And why I'm bringing that up, because we were posting about it on Shift, where you can subscribe, of course, down below. Hit that link. It'll take you so you can subscribe to Shift. You can also click right here, and you can watch Mark Kelly after defeating Donald Trump in court, bragging about it. People ask me, why'd you start another channel? Because we need more people to see this video of Mark Kelly talking about how Donald Trump is weaponizing the justice system and how he is losing. That is why we started another channel, because we need more clips like this in the algorithm. So go check it out. Go subscribe to Shift. Keep on fighting, y'all. Help us shift our politics. And until next time, I'll see you soon.